Hi, and welcome to our debate about who is responsible for student satisfaction. First, some words though from our Acting Vice-Chancellor, Mary Kellett.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Mary Kellett, your Acting Vice-Chancellor here at the Open University. I'd like to welcome you to this special Student Hub Live debate, which forms part of our exciting lineup of Freshers' Fortnight activities. Satisfaction has become a phrase which is synonymous with everyday life. Not a day goes by where we don't get an email inviting us to take a survey or leave a review for a service, an activity or a product. But who exactly is responsible for your satisfaction? Is it solely the responsibility of the organisation offering the experience or product? Or do we have some responsibility for our own satisfaction? Here at the Open University, we take your satisfaction with your studies very seriously, and we invite you to participate in this interesting and thought-provoking debate. We will hear from your fellow students, Open University academics, our tutor community, as well as Open University staff who support your learning. I very much hope that you will join the debate through the chat option here in Student Hub Live. Just remember to send us your thoughts as we go through the session. After the event, I would encourage you to explore our student community pages to find out more about how we listen and how you can get involved. During your studies, please remember to use the feedback opportunities available to let us know how you feel. We are listening. Thank you, and we wish you all every success as you embark on this life-changing journey with us.
Welcome everybody to our big debate of the day. Well, we've had a fantastic morning so far, and I've picked up from Michelle this wonderful thing that will give me tea at any opportunity, and I see that a lot of you at home have been getting tea and your lunch on the go, so sit back and enjoy our big discussion. The topic is who is responsible for student satisfaction? And I'm joined by some esteemed colleagues from the Open University to discuss this very issue in our debate, where we will settle this for once and for all. Now, at home, we've got a variety of things that we'd like to know about. So you can chat about what you've had for lunch or how you're going to order your tea from your partner at home. But we'd also like to know where you are in the country, what level you're studying, what area you're studying in, how you're feeling right now. And also, we've got some questions that relate to this debate. So we'd like to know which argument you agree with, and also which team is arguing more effectively. So two very different questions. I bet they're going to change as we move through this session. So let us know what you think by clicking on the widget, selecting the item that applies to you, and then you can see what everybody else at home thinks also. So I'll be chairing this debate, which means that I'm going to keep an eye on timings and sit back and maybe order a cup of tea. And our teams are going to do all of the hard work. Now, Chris, can I ask you please to introduce your team and tell us a little bit about you all and your name?
Sure. Well, I'm Chris Kubiak. I'm the Associate Head of School in the Faculty School of Health, Wellbeing and Social Care. And we're the Social Sandies. Our view is that society is responsible for student satisfaction.
Hello. I'm Rhodri Davies. I'm the Communications Manager for the Open University in Wales.
Hi everybody, my name's John Butcher and I'm Associate Director in Learning and Teaching Innovation. My main responsibility is for the Access Programme and research around widening participation. I'm a long-suffering West Ham supporter and I will try and get a David Bowie reference into one of my speeches.
A good aim, John. Thank you very much. Peter.
My name's Peter Taylor. I'm Professor of Organic Chemistry in the STEM faculty, and we're the Solo Sams because we believe that satisfaction is up to the individual, whether that individual be the student or the teacher. And I'm joined by, on my left, I've got Cath.
Hi, I'm Cath Brown. I'm President of the OU Students Association. I've been an OU student for ages, studying subjects from the best one ever, which is chemistry.
Thank you.
And, of course. And then this year I'm actually studying classical Greek.
And on my right is Helen.
Hi, I'm Helen Clough. I'm a Senior Library Manager from, unsurprisingly, the library.
Well, we've had some good feedback. Peter, Samantha says that you look very fancy.
Thank you.
And
I'll do
John,
my best.
we've been saying, Bruce says that you look fun.
Oh, Normally that's Peter.
It's really fun too.
And lots of support in the chat, so do keep chatting on there. Right, so the rules of the game. What I'm going to do is I'm going to toss a coin and then we're going to find out which team is going to present the argument first. We're going to ask one member from the first team to present their argument, then one member from the second team to present their argument, and so on and so forth until they're out of time. And when they are, they will hear this sound. Get it working. There we are. It was worth the wait, so I think you'll agree. Otherwise, I'll refer to the end of the session with my gavel, which always upsets the law school. So we will give the teams about 5 minutes for the first speaker, 4 minutes for each of the second speakers, and then I will sum up some of the arguments that have been made while you at home vote. Now, we've got Stephanie Stubbins from the USA group on the chat as well, so she's going to be feeding in a lot of questions as well, and a lot of you are already setting to go. So we'll incorporate all of your comments too. The teams will then finally rebut, and then we will decide who the winning team is. Okay, so I think that's all the rules of the game. I think we should get started. Right. Oh, actually, I might just get a cup of tea before we do. I've got this fantastic bell, and oh, thank you.
That's such a cool bell.
This isn't it? Yeah, we can. Thank you very much. Yeah, we can order tea like this. We heard about this from the Open University Business School, and you just get one of these, and then you can get tea when you're studying, and you don't have to stop studying. It's amazing, isn't it? Right, heads or tails?
Tails.
Tails. Tails. Right. Okay. Your team can present the first side of the argument. Go for it.
Okay, my argument would be that, except in exceptional circumstances, how satisfied as a student you are with a module is largely down to you. That you come in with your own expectations for that module, you are ready or not ready to accept the fact that some of it is challenging and will really, really push you. You will come in, ready or not, to accept the fact you might not instinctively like everything that you're studying on that module. But if you take the mentality that you're going to embrace those opportunities and that something you might not have chosen may actually end up really fascinating for you, something that you find hard may develop all sorts of skills in you, then that's going to change your attitude to your study on that module. So something that you might in abstract have thought was not going to be your cup of tea can end up being one of your favourite modules just from those sorts of things. And although of course there are problems, there are always problems, there can be a big difference how you handle it. If you respond to a problem as, okay, there's a problem, let's find a solution collaboratively and work together towards it, then actually that can be quite satisfying in itself that you've worked with others to improve things. If you take the approach of, dreadful Open University, why have you created this problem? Why have you made something be 5 minutes late from when it was meant to be? Then of course you're going to be dissatisfied, aren't you? Now, another thing that comes into it, it's your whole university experience, that how satisfied you feel with your study is going to be a part of how you feel about the whole community, whether you've got involved with your fellow students, whether you've got to know them, whether you've made friends, whether you've taken the opportunity to engage outside, whether you've taken the opportunity to do additional things such as on-campus residential schools and that sort of thing. They make a huge difference to your whole experience too. The other thing that's I think is really important here is how you see education. That you can either see education as a means to an end, as just about going in there and I want a qualification to get a job, just thinking of it as a piece of paper. But if you go in there thinking, I'm going to enjoy the journey, I'm going to come out of this a different person to the one I started, then you're going to have a much more open-minded approach. You're going to be able to seize the opportunities you have in all sorts of different parts of your OU journey, and you're much more likely to end up satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you, Cath. Some interesting food for thought.
See what they say next.
Well, we've had a lot of comments. Michael says if he had a tea bell, he'd be dead within a week. But again, lots of comments of people agreeing. Christopher says, I do agree, Cath, do other things and get that student's experience working and also make the most of what's going on out there. So that's brilliant. Right.
Oh, it's me.
It's you. No, sorry, this is just for me. It's one user per bell. I'm very sorry, Rhodri.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, I'll crack on then with the counter-argument. Thank you very much, Cath, for kicking us off. So my friend Myfanwy and I have got our passports out and we've come over to Milton Keynes from Wales today to talk about what we think, or who we think is responsible for student satisfaction. So I'm going to take a different view to Cath, and I'm going to say that it's actually society. So society has an expectation of higher education, of universities, of getting a degree. And I think the one that we're most familiar with, and I think Cath did actually touch on this, is that you need to go to university to be happy. You need to get a degree, you need to get a qualification so that you can get a good job and a nice house and a nice car and go on nice holidays. And actually, if you think about it, you know, not many of us are that materialistic, but it's true. You know, we do want good jobs. We do want a roof over our heads, and we do want to go to hot places on holiday or interesting places on holiday. So I think, you know, some of us would have a degree of sympathy with that. And just to give you a bit of a Welsh perspective, I spoke to a colleague of mine in the head office in Cardiff a few days ago, and actually we discussed about the labour market in Wales. Very much, you know, since the deindustrialisation, Wales, more than any other part of the UK, is more dependent on the public sector for employment. And the public sector, you know, really does value graduates, does value going to university. So here we have a part of the UK where going to university is part of that path to becoming fulfilled and happy. So the basic argument I've got is, yes, society expects us to go to university, and that's what the base for student satisfaction is. However, looking at higher education across the UK now, and specifically in Wales, we can see now that there are more moves to widen participation in HE in higher education, getting more people to think about studying a degree, people from perhaps areas of low economic activity, people from BME communities who perhaps in areas which traditionally haven't considered university, students with disabilities, students perhaps who may have a mental health difficulty, widening university up to those people. And you can actually ask them, well, what is education for? Is it to improve career prospects? Absolutely yes. But also it could be about being more visible in your community, about increasing skills, about being able to manage a household budget, just about being more engaged and having more things to discuss. And it could even be, you know, perhaps if you've retired, it's about being keeping stimulated and, you know, taking an interest in something. So I think this is a good thing. If society has an idea of what education should look like, we can broaden what quality education is and what the student experience should be. So it shouldn't be about, did you get a good job? Did you get a good degree? It could be about, did you go to university and did you benefit from the experience? And I think that's a good thing.
Here.
Wonderful. Diane, Rhodri.
Diolch yn fawr.
Laura says, oh, a good fellow Welshie. They love the accent. So people obviously are paying attention to the argument in addition to commenting on your attire and demeanour. But these are important things. Now, we've asked you at home to vote on a number of different things. Which argument do you agree with? Which team is creating the most effective argument? And also, who has the best mascot? Now, we've got a lot of mascots up here. What is this all about, teams, and why have you brought these into the... Because this gets me tea. I'm not sure what these get you.
Well, this is Brian. Brian is a rock band manager, and I think you will agree that he is very cool. Yeah.
He is very cool, but is he contributing to your argument, Helen?
Yes, I can certainly weave him into my arguments.
Thank goodness for that.
And John, I see you've brought your David Bowie quote to include in your argument. But Chris, what's this pig?
So this is a pig that used to hang from my office when I was a student, and I was also working full time, and it had wings on it. And I used to have it there to remind me that you can still achieve the impossible, even though it looks like you won't get there.
And it's lasted very well.
Mm.
And Rhodri, your cow?
This is Myfanwy.
Myfanwy, yeah, sorry.
The cow.
Yeah.
And she's the first thing I picked up from my kid's bedroom this morning. But there's a very... I made up the story in a way here, and it wasn't very funny, so yeah, it's Myfanwy.
Your poor children.
Yeah.
To try.
Please say don't have a cow now.
Well, right now, let's see what people at home say. We've got 75%, this is changing all the time. Oh no, 69% agreeing with Team Solo Sam's in terms of whose argument they agree with.
That's
But
made such a
which
good
team
She did.
are arguing more effectively? Well, Team Solo Sam's are at the moment with 69%. And let's see who has the best mascot. So, no, Team Solo Sam's, I'm sorry. That just went down.
We are just awesome. That's what
Perhaps it's volume.
Yeah.
Well, never mind. Let's crack on with the debate. So, Peter, who from your team is going next?
Helen.
Okay, so I argue that students are responsible for their own satisfaction because if they don't speak up, if they don't use their voice and aren't willing to engage with student surveys or vote with their feet, then universities will remain in the dark about what they need to change to improve student satisfaction. Feedback from students helps universities to understand that student experience and where they might be falling short. There's lots going around our own institution to do with the student voice. If you go to the OU Students Association website, for example, and I'm sure Stephanie on the chat can put the link in there, you will see that Amelia is the new VP for Student Voice, and you can see about what's going on with the student voice there. So as well as regular quality assurance mechanisms like the NSS, which is the National Student Survey, there are other opportunities for students to let universities know what they think and have their voice heard, such as consultative forums, and I'm sure there are many other opportunities that Stephanie could point you to in the chat. For myself, from the library, we have a panel of about 400 to 500 students who we go to regularly to ask questions about library services and resources. We might ask them about the website, we might actually get them to test the website. And we use that evidence and that feedback to make changes. So, if students aren't satisfied, they need to let universities know, and then changes can be made to improve the student experience and student satisfaction. And crucially, universities will listen. Because, and I'm going to use the C word now, I'm sorry, universities will listen because students have power as consumers. Sorry for using the C word.
We're talking value for money next.
So the National Student Survey results in particular are taken incredibly seriously by universities because those are used in league tables and also in the Teaching Excellence Framework. They're a key metric in the TEF. And if my colleagues will know what the TEF is intimately, but for the audience who might not know what the TEF is, this is where UK universities are given a rating, bronze, silver or gold, to signify the quality of their teaching. So, my final point is that if students aren't satisfied, they can vote with their feet and go elsewhere. Obviously, we hope that OU students don't, but most of us are familiar with the concept of shopping around. When we get the renewal through for our car insurance, or if we're looking for a holiday, we will go to price comparison websites, we'll maybe look at Which magazine, and we'll see what other consumers are saying, and we'll make decisions based on that. So students could look at those TEF ratings and see what other students are saying, and if they're not happy, they could go to another university. So my colleagues on the other team are probably going to make arguments around the collective and society being responsible for student satisfaction, but actually it all comes down to the individual in the end. You know, if the individual student doesn't use their voice, then nothing will change.
Their arguments are so eloquent, we need the time.
Then what, Helen? If students don't, then what?
then nothing will change. If students don't use their voice, then nothing will change.
Okay, but you are out of time. Actually, everyone's been agreeing with that point in terms of people saying that, you know, how are universities supposed to know what's happening if people don't say anything? And lots of people have been talking about that and talking about times when perhaps they have said things and they feel that perhaps the university has listened. And one viewer at home made the comment that, you know, you're basing this on the assumption that universities do listen. And they made that very early on. So again, something worth thinking about perhaps for the other team. So, with that in mind, Chris.
Thank you. Oh, what a grim world this is.
Shall we have more tea? I'll get more tea.
And it's all down to the students to make the most of it. Now let me give you something else. Introduce you to a benevolent government that wants students to do well and will support them to do that. So, do you like tea, John?
I love tea.
Well, here we go. Right, 4 teacups, and I'd like you to choose,
Oh.
in the way that Helen would like you to choose,
Oh.
the best cup of tea for you.
Oh.
Right. So what's wrong with this little arrangement for tea?
Well, one of them's a glass.
Exactly. Now that's the first way that the government helps improve student satisfaction. They have an office called the Office for Students. That's, I know, I didn't clean it before I was using this one this morning before I came to the studio.
Is there any wine in that glass?
It's a gin glass, Cath.
There will be.
Request for gin
Sorry.
glasses.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So what the Office for Students does is regulates or identifies key components for universities and makes sure they meet them. So the government has a role in ensuring that a university really is a university. So we'll take that out, right? So the second question is, which cup would you like to choose, John?
I choose that one.
You see, the question is, how did you make that choice?
It's bigger.
It's bigger, okay. So you picked a superficial criteria.
Oh, I'm very superficial.
And that's the second point, is that what you really need as a student is information to make choices. Now, what the Office for Students does is that it provides information for students, whether they're satisfied, also on cost. So I've got
Upside
a cost here for
down.
each cup.
Yours upside down.
That explains where I stick on. And and the other one, I've got little ticks here that show how much you'll get out of the cup of tea. So you'll see that the £1 one,
Yeah.
not many students were very happy, but they got 2 ticks out of it. The £2 one,
You need to point them at
They
the
got
camera,
3
though. People
ticks.
can't see at home.
they got 3 ticks out of it. And the £1.50 one, they got 1 tick.
Oh.
Now this is complicated, isn't it?
We need a grid.
So, which one do you want?
Oh, it's too much choice, Chris.
It is too much choice, but nevertheless you have to choose.
Oh, could I have the cleanest one?
The cleanest one. Well, that's probably
I think
this
it's
one.
probably that one,
So this
isn't
one.
it?
But what this does is illustrates the point about the way in which students need an infrastructure to help them make choices, to interpret the range of information about universities so that they get the one that's right for them. So there's a decision-making structure that's created by the university through the Unistat system. Now, the last thing, I want to come back to student opinion. So both Helen and Cath have stressed speaking up, and I do think that's important. Now, there's a couple of things that's interesting about speaking up and student satisfaction. One is that more satisfied students don't learn more. The second is that more satisfied students aren't more likely to stick with the institution. So, what a recent evaluation of NSS data showed is that in fact it had very little impact on student choice. So actually, John, you might as well have just picked this one.
Yeah.
Because it's bigger and it's
Yeah.
closer and it's nicer and it's made out of bamboo.
I'm happy.
What
You
a
are
waste
happy.
of time that was.
So choice isn't made on the basis of NSS data. Nevertheless, what is significant is that NSS data is public. That is, everyone can see how the university scores, and the university, in response to this pressure, will improve their provision. So, there's one last point, and that is, why would anyone want to be a consumer when they could be a member of an academic community? Now, there's another government agency called the QAA that requires universities to form partnerships with their students. Oh no!
It was going so well.
Out of time.
Well, you'll have to wait for the
mugging
rebuttal.
about.
Yes, indeed. Lucky we have that as well. So people sharing a lot on the chat and talking a lot about different things. If any of this is tricky to follow, which I appreciate it can be while you're talking to other students, it is available on Catch Up to watch after the event. So while you're watching live, do enjoy the experience, and I will sum up some of the arguments towards the end of the session after we've heard from each team. There is also a pin button on the chat, so there's a lot going on, and if you'd like to scroll through the chat, you can just press that pin button, which is on the top right hand side of that screen, to do so. On the bottom right hand side of your screen, you'll also see a little window with some boxes on it. Now those are not to tick which tea you'd like to order, but they change the interface, so if you'd like the chat to be larger or smaller, you can just press on that and there will be various options to suit you best. Right, let's see which team is in the lead. So far we have 76% saying they agree with Team Solo Sams in terms of the argument. We have the argument most effectively is, again, Team Solo Sams with 71%. And in terms of the mascot, it's pretty much tied now, where we've got Solo Sams in the lead, I'm afraid, again with 54%. So some interesting things there. We've got a bit to
lies and statistics.
It is. You've got your David Bowie quote, John.
Yeah. Do you want to actually owe success to a pig, though? And that's one of the things you need to ask yourself, even if you overtake us there.
I think I'll order some biscuits.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so who is going next?
What?
Your biscuits, miss.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Take the tea and boil
Oh,
some
thank
more.
you. That would be lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is the best thing I've ever nicked off anyone.
I'll have one of those, please.
Right, Suave Peter.
Right, well, I'm going to argue that actually the responsibility for student satisfaction lies with individual teachers. So I looked up the definition of satisfaction and I got words such as contentment, pleasure, sense of well-being, fulfillment, happiness, complacent. But I'm not sure that these are the emotions I want to achieve in my students. These are things I should worry about if I was in that kind of provider-customer relationship. But the teacher-student relationship is very different. The kinds of emotions I want my students to feel are a sense of achievement, triumph, pride and growth. Education should be about transformation and development. And this journey isn't always easy. Sometimes it's very painful. And part of my job as a teacher is to push students outside of their comfort zone so they can grow and gain confidence. On Monday, I will have been teaching at the Open University for 40 years. And over the years, I've learned what works for my students in chemistry. I believe that students pay good money to learn, not for some kind of formulaic approach, but actually they don't want to be entertained, but they want to actually be challenged. And staff who here have taught for years know how to challenge students. And one of the early reports of the Open University highlighted the importance between the quality of the staff we employ and the quality of our teaching and the achievements of our students. So as an experienced educator, I should have the freedom to use my expertise and professional responsibility to meet what I know are the needs of my students. Though throughout my career I've maintained a student-centred approach, but a student-centred approach doesn't always mean that my students are going to be comfortable. Sometimes I need to move them out of their comfort zone, and I know that's rather paternalistic, but you know, in many ways that's what students pay for. They pay for my expertise in helping them to move on. So in conclusion, I would say I'd failed in my job if at the end of their studies, students are left feeling satisfied. They should have had an uncomfortable journey, and they should have discovered in that way many things that they'd never ever thought of and achieved many things that they never thought they could achieve. And in many ways, they shouldn't be satisfied. They should be thirsting for more. Yeah, that got you quiet, didn't it?
Thank you very much. A lot of people are agreeing with you, Peter. Jane agrees, Helen agrees, and a lot of talk about volunteering and getting involved with the Students' Association, and links to the website where you can find out more about that also. Right, so John, it's your turn now.
Well, I'm astonished at how low Peter could go there. And what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to use the institution really as a proxy for society. So I'm going to talk about the moral responsibility of the university to really take an interest in student satisfaction. Now let's just think about Peter's definition there for a moment, and I agree the words are not particularly helpful, but happiness and being content and things like that. And I think my argument, and I'll use perhaps the time period of Peter's estimable teaching career, there have been many changes over that time. And I thank you. And one of the things is that when I was an undergraduate, I was able to study with a grant for nothing. And I must say, I was never asked whether I was satisfied as a student. I don't know whether my institution was interested in that at all, but I kind of went through my education. I enjoyed it immensely. But it seems something has changed over the time, and the change is around fees, and the change is around putting the onus of paying for higher education onto individual students. Therefore, I would argue there is a moral case for an institution, in this case the university, to take a particular interest that the student is satisfied, whatever that might mean, with the education experience they're being offered. And that might be satisfied in terms of a default level, perhaps, around the quality of materials, or the quality of tutoring, or the speed of assessment feedback. All of those sorts of things. It's not nearly as simplistic as my colleagues over there suggested around value for money and the customer. It's absolutely not about that. But I think there are particular challenges in a university like the Open University, which is open access and needs to work with its students at a distance. And I do wonder if student satisfaction is even more important in the Open University than other universities in the sector, because many students out there may be anxious about studying remotely or feeling slightly alienated, as often the literature tells us, and therefore the university has to be very careful about how it measures student satisfaction. And I think what happens with all of the various mechanisms we use, and there are many, only a few have been mentioned thus far. We have SEAM surveys, we have national student surveys, we have our tutors who are wonderful, we have help desks, we have student support teams and information advice and guidance. We have widgets in our VLE which can, in a live way, analyse how happy students are with the experience they're getting. All of this is really important because, and this is my most important point, because by the institution enabling students to do that, power is demolished.
Well,
Is demolished.
we have a lot of people. You'll never know because the bell's gone.
It's on the obscure second album.
Exactly, yes.
Chris is agreeing with you. Joy says John makes as good a point as Peter.
High praise indeed.
Lots more. Bruce says he doesn't want to be satisfied, he wants to be delighted. But we are discussing satisfaction, Bruce, so you can't go in with that.
The national delights.
Yeah, exactly. Rather like a dessert that you might make in a quick time at home. So if you haven't voted yet on which team you think makes the most convincing argument, which team you agree with, and which team has the best mascot, you can do so now. I must say, this tea bell, I think I'm going to get rid of it. Ray asked whether I was allowed to take it home, and I think the answer is no, because I ordered the tea about 10 minutes ago and it still hasn't arrived. So I think maybe it's a bit useless. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to sum up your arguments with your final... Oh, thank you.
Sorry, Miss Foley, didn't want to interrupt the debate.
Thank you. It's very interesting, isn't it? Thank you. Right, so, all these biscuits and things, my word. OK, we've heard two very interesting sides of the argument here. We started off with Solo Sam's, with Cath arguing that the student is responsible. And Cath, you made the point that things are never perfect, and you may confer with your teams as you sort of do this while I just recap for people at home so that they can vote. Cath explained things were never perfect, and it's about constructively responding to problems. And again, she raised the point about what is education all about? Is it just a means to an end? And if it is a means to an end, it might be viewed in a very, very different way. We then heard from Rhodri, who was from the Social Sandys, who were presenting a societal view that the collective is responsible. responsible. And his argument was that the expectations are formed by a wider collective and they're not just the responsibility of one person. He spoke about the landscape in Wales, where we're seeing more efforts to bring people into higher education, in particular from difficult to reach groups as well, and also what society expects from education. He said it's a different thing. It's not just did you get a good job, but did you benefit from the experience, so that there's more to it than just that education at the end. We then heard from Helen, who was talking about the student and the consumer and the active creator aspect of educational experiences. She was saying that if they don't speak up, if they don't use their voice, then how will the university actually listen? And she spoke about two key things that are very prominent in the university, the National Student Survey and the TEF. And there was a lot of discussion at home as well about the purposes of those and the extent to which they both informed choice and had an impact on rankings. Chris then argued from a managerial perspective, and he had his analogy of cups of tea, talking about how we actually make choices and some of the criteria that we might make. And his point there related to the importance of some of these surveys and the extent to which they do actually inform choices. He was saying the student's responsibility is shared with a government agency who ensures that the universities conform to certain requirements. So again, that idea that things are fitting into a much larger picture. We then had from Peter, who was saying that there's a responsibility to not always do what's nice for the student, but to do what's right for the student. So he was talking about his professional experience and how that can feel uncomfortable at times, but it is what's doing what is best. The educators should also exercise autonomy through their experience and professional responsibility, and again, to do that to meet the needs of the student. We then heard from John, who was talking about changes around. Sorry, I had to do it again because you've got such a laugh, John. And talking about how people can achieve and triumph through growth and push outside comfort zones, but in different ways. It's about happiness and about being content. So we've had those arguments from the teams, and now I'm going to offer you the chance to make your final points now that you've heard what each of the other team has said. So, Peter, I think we'll let you go first.
Okay, well, I've got a couple of points I'd like to make, and one is that I agree with John that a university is responsible for ensuring the satisfaction of the students. However, the university is made up of individuals, and it's that kind of group of individuals with a whole range of different skills and abilities that come together that create the kind of the learning environment for our students. And so it is that collective of people and individuals that make the difference. And the other thing is that in terms of a society perspective, I think it's important to realise that education is not just about getting a job. Education is about growth of individuals. It's about having an informed society and having more informed individuals who can comment on a range of different activities. So it's more than that. And I think Cath wants to say something about data.
Yes, we've had a few quotes about NSS and those sorts of things as well. And we all know data does not tell the full picture. For example, if I look at the average number of legs on a human being, it's something like 1.99. I don't know many people who've got 1.99 legs, do you? I have a ruder example as well, but I probably shouldn't use it.
Thank you. And I think Helen just wanted to reinforce one point.
Yeah, so my point about it all starts with the individual. If students don't speak up, then they won't actually have an impact. And an example of that is I put a Twitter poll out earlier asking people to vote for which mascot I should bring along with me. I had 4 votes, so and the majority of people asked me to bring along a particular mascot that I then wasn't allowed to bring because it wasn't copyright cleared. So I've got Brian instead, but I'm very happy with Brian. But that's showing how the individual had an influence on me and impacted on the direction of travel.
And it also reinforces how it's the individual who leads to that collective data that actually the university then acts upon in some way. Exactly. But we mustn't forget that it's at the individual at the bottom of that. Yes. And so they're not a collective of a bland group of students, but each a collection of individuals who have different needs and wants.
We cannot ever do one size fits all.
Nope.
So that's why we need not to have a collective perspective.
Well, Peter says, tut, Cath, that isn't how you should use averages when there are discrete answers. I'm afraid, Helen, though, your strategy hasn't worked. Team Social Sandies are in the lead with who has the best mascot, currently on 54%. This is your last chance to keep... to vote at home, so please do, and before we announce the winners, which you are deciding at the end of the day. Right, they've flaunted the rules, they've gone with each person having a go, but we'll stick to the time. Chris, either you can do it or you can invite your whole team.
Absolutely. Well, I'll make some opening points and my colleagues can join in if they would like. So, students can do all the talking they like, but the institutions need to be set up to listen. And that's what governments do. They provide the obligation to listen. The second thing is, why on earth would anyone want to be a consumer when they could be a member of our academic community, when they could work in partnership with the university as part of a university community?
That's my argument. Cheek.
No, quiet in the cheap seats.
Making decisions
Stealing
together.
our clothes.
Yes.
The argument of the student partnership is a community argument and therefore a collective argument in which students and academics work together, designing modules together, and when we get the data in, we make the decision together, we interpret it together. The third thing is the solo academic working alone certainly has some value, but an academic is responsible to a community of practice, and the community of academic practice defines what is skilled and effective practice in chemistry or any other discipline area.
And Chris, I think we know, do we not, that for students, the real heroes are our tutors and our student support colleagues, and they, of course, are part of the institution's moral responsibility to ensure that students are satisfied with the learning they're receiving.
Hang on. It's an individual tutor there.
Kath, I'd like to ask. No more
Which
from
is
you.
responsible for a community of practice.
I'm going a bit deaf, I didn't get you.
Rhodri, would you like to say?
Yes,
Please do.
Very quickly, I want to talk about car insurance. Yes, we may be customers, consumers, but society expects us to own a car and have insurance, and we have to as responsible drivers. But if society changes and says, get a bike, go on the bus, catch a train, then we behave differently, and university higher education is the same. And higher education is great because it can help us cure disease, it can help us improve infrastructure, and one day, who knows, find life on Mars.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. Final line was
Very good. Well, Suzanne, who was here doing our time management session, is just doing that very thing. So it is amazing what can be done. Right, this is your last chance to vote at home. So which team do you think has made the most effective argument? So, and also, which argument do you agree with? Let's just take some final moments. It's very, very... Oh, it's wavering. Oh my goodness. I can't bear the suspense. How long are we going to give this? Right, last chances to vote for people at home and other comments that you'd like to feed through. It has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. There has been so much going on in the chat. We have more events next week that you can come along and chat to. Also, we have our Refreshers Orientation event. I know that there are a lot of people from the Students' Association here, and they're going to have a large section of the event in the evening, and we'll be covering all sorts of things you need to know about. So for those of you who are just starting your modules, some people have been saying they're a bit anxious, we'll explain all of that in that session on the 4th of February.
October?
October. Oh, I keep doing that. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Anyway, yeah. So clearly a good event organiser. Yes, it is. John will be there. Peter will be talking about assessment. Helen and the team from the library are doing all sorts of things also. Cath obviously will be here also, which I mentioned earlier. So let's start with the mascot. So in the lead with who has the best mascot, on 54% we have Team Social Sandies.
But you never asked about my mascot.
I'll see that.
No, I'm upset now.
Showing that
Well, pigs might fly.
quality, not quantity, and I'm not sure whether the mugs are included in that, but it's an open question, so we leave ourselves guessing on that one.
Okay.
In terms of who is arguing more effectively, we have heard that Team Solo Sams are arguing more effectively.
We was wrong.
Thanks. Well done, colleagues. Well done.
I'm outraged.
And the most important question, whose argument do you agree with? I'm doing this now because it's been wavering. It's 50-50. Oh no, it's 52% Team Solo Sams.
Oh.
It's changing all the time.
Time out.
Oh my goodness.
Our student body understands what's right.
Well done, everybody.
The Brexit score.
It's changing again now, John.
Too late. Decision's made. No further votes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you to our colleagues for coming along. It's not an easy thing to come and do debate live in front of a large amount of people at home who've all been having a lot of fun talking and sharing experiences. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for everyone who's been manning our chat box also. Final words from our teams for our new students who are just getting ready to start studying. What advice would you give them? Chris?
Make the most of the group around you. Rely on other students to support you.
And Peter?
I think mainly about planning. It's about planning and making sure you set aside time to do what you can and where you can, and make sure that you use all of the materials as much as you can. And Cath?
First one I would say is talk to your tutor. Your tutor is not the scariest teacher at your old school. Your tutor wants you to succeed. So talk to them. It's got to be the most important bit of advice. And don't compare yourself to other people.
Enjoy the possibility of being transformed
And growing.
and growing.
And be challenged.
Wonderful. And to changing?
Not an It worked the first 3 times.
All right, okay. Oh, I'll just stick to my 2 then, won't I? Helen?
Use the library.
And you've got lots of events on this week as well, haven't you?
We do, yeah. So we're doing some Facebook Lives that you can come along to. We have our regular programme of online training sessions that run throughout the year, only 30 minutes long. Come along and learn everything about the library. And we also have a help desk, which is 24/7. So the web chat, if you do find yourself studying at 2 o'clock in the morning and you need some help using the library, click on that web chat and you'll get through to a librarian in the United States of America. So, yeah.
Wow.
And last by no means least, Rhodri.
I should say something in Welsh. Pob luck, good luck. I think generally, linked to what Cath was saying, please do get in touch with people. Everyone's here to help. I've only been here 10 weeks, actually, and everyone is fantastic. It's a great place to work and be involved with.
Right. Wonderful. Well, thank you for our teams today. Don't forget that if you've missed some of today's session, and indeed we had a full day yesterday, all of that will be available very shortly afterwards on the catch-up. And the Student Hub Live YouTube channel has literally hours and hours of content. So if you... I know, because I've been there.
Hours and hours of me job.
So if you would like to see some of my colleagues talking about things like assessment, tutors and tutorials and various things, you can find all of those on the channel, and hopefully you will enjoy those resources. Many of the other resources that we've talked about today are on the resources page of the Student Hub Live website. We like to know what you think, so there's a feedback button also there, so you can just let us know what worked, what didn't work, etc. If there's sessions that you'd like to see in the future, please do let us know. We also would like to see all of your study buddies and study spaces, particularly cute dogs. So email us pictures of those, and we'll be showing those next week at our Refreshers Orientation event on the 4th of October. So that email is studenthub@open.ac.uk. People have also been engaging on Twitter as well, so please do ask any questions that you'd like us to know the answers to, and we'll make sure that we include that in the programme next week. That's all from us though today at the Student Hub Live. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and good luck in your studies. See you soon. Bye.